I've got the recipe for you. This dip is just amazing. It just melts in your mouth. Ooh. Bon appetit. Hey everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the Very Vera Show. You know, I wear a lot of hats. You know me from the show. I also run a big catering and event business during the golf tournament here in Augusta. I have a summer camp I do with children, and I'm busy working with my cookbook and my next cookbook that'll be coming out in about a year. But my favorite role is that of mom and grandmother. And to get all of my family together these days is kind of difficult. So our favorite way to get together is on Sundays after early church. With little grandchildren, we get up early, we do church, and then we come together for brunch. So what I'm going to do today is share with you some of my favorite recipes for brunch. We're going to start with the tomato pie. It's one of my all-time favorites. You can make it all year round. Then we're going to move into a baked French toast. You know, my children loved it for breakfast. This is so easy because you can make it ahead. And then finally, how does a cheddar cheese and chive biscuit sound? It is scrumptious with either ham or figs preserves. And so then in Vera's Corner, you know, those winter plants are going to go dormant if you don't take care of them. So we're going to talk about some tips to get that together. So why don't we get started on this tomato pie, because it's absolutely an easy recipe and something I really enjoy making. So I've got all my ingredients laid out, and it's such a colorful dish. We're going to start with the tomato. And you know, lots of people think that here I am in the South and everybody grows wonderful garden tomatoes, and how in the world can you make this anytime other than the summer when they're fresh? But actually, I love to use Roma tomatoes in this recipe, and therefore you can make this all year long. And the reason for that is that these really maintain their shape and their consistency after you've baked them. And that's what you're looking for with this recipe. And so as you can see, there's a lot of juice that's come out of this when I've cut it. So what I've gone ahead and done is sliced my others, and I've got them on paper towel just to kind of get some of that juice out. The next thing is that tomatoes love salt. So you want to put plenty of good kosher salt on your sliced tomatoes. And that's just going to bring out, again, some of the natural flavor. And then there's nothing like cracked black pepper, so you're going to get that done as well. And this uses about 5 or 6 medium-sized Roma tomatoes. All right. Next thing is the wonderful mixture that goes inside. And you know me and my Hellmann's mayonnaise, I've got that done. And then the other tip I have for you is I always grate my own cheese. You know, unless I'm in some kind of really big hurry, there's nothing like freshly grated cheese. And this is Parmesan, and that gives you that nutty flavor. And I've kind of put a twist on this today because I had some wonderful balsamic Parmesan in my refrigerator, and I decided to use that in here. And then I've got cheddar. So the cheddar is where the goo comes from, and we all love that melted cheese in our dishes. All right, so now we're going to stir this together, and that's the filling. Okay, so I love to use my Pillsbury pie crust when I do this. And this is just simple, easy. You're going to open this out and just put it right in your pan. And you know, this is so easy. Don't you dare go buy one of those that comes in the aluminum pan, because nobody's going to know that you didn't make this pie crust yourself, because it is so scrumptious. That's why I always use Pillsbury. It's just the easiest thing to do. But rather than me take a lot of time on this right now, I've already done one. So let me grab this off the counter. And I was able to crimp it and everything else, which is really an easy process. All right, so let's start building. And as you can see, I've got my crimped edge. I went ahead and did my fork on it. And you've got 2 options here. If you like a crispy pie crust, go ahead and bake it for 7 to 8 minutes at 400. But if you like it to be kind of gooey along with everything else, then just put it in there as a raw pie crust. Okay, so now we're just going to start building this pie. And you're going to get a circle, and then you can put one in the center. Or maybe 2 if they're small. All right, so I'm going to try to get 3 layers out of this. So I'm going to put about 1/3 of this mixture in the center. And then I want to just spread that around with a spoon. And then we'll just keep building. And then this is going to go in the oven for about 30 minutes at 400. And when we come back from the break, let me get that back in there. When we come back from the break, we can get started on that baked French toast, which is amazing. So I'll just keep working here and come back with me in just a minute. Welcome back, everybody, and if you're just joining us, I'm doing my favorite brunch food. And I know, for me, sometimes we do brunch for supper or breakfast for supper, but as a child, this dish put the biggest smile on my face. This was something that my mom always did over the weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. They did French toast, and I know that my sons also remember that we did the same thing. So this recipe is so unique because, there is a little bit of time involved in making French toast, and it's kind of a last minute. But this is something that you could do the night before, and you get the same amazing results and the award-winning smiles in your family too. So what I've gone ahead and done, I want to bring you up to date on that tomato pie that we just finished. I got all the layers done. You're going to sprinkle each layer of tomato with that fresh basil and those great spring onions. And then I got 3 layers out of it. And the top layer, you want those tomatoes to bleed through. Then now it's in the oven on 400 degrees for about 30 minutes. Just delicious. All right, so I've got everything laid out, and just look at all these fabulous fall ingredients that go into this. So I've got 4 eggs. I'm just going to whisk those together. And then this recipe uses French bread. So go to the deli area of your grocery store to look for that. You want something that's about 3 to 4 inches in depth, width, and then you're going to cut it for about 1 inch thick for each slice. All right, so my eggs are done, and now I'm going to add into that my dry ingredients. I've got salt, nutmeg, cinnamon, and a little bit of vanilla. Love it. Let's whisk that up. And now this is when you know you're making French toast, because you can smell that cinnamon. Okay, we're going to add to that heavy cream and a little bit of whole milk. So this is the basis. This is the custard for your toast. All right, so I'm going to get some of this bread soaking, and I'm going to put just a little bit in the bottom of the pan, just enough to kind of begin that soaking process. All right, so now I'm just going to lay the bread in and get some of it to start soaking up that wonderful custard. And while that's soaking, let's get started on these other ingredients. So I've got dark brown sugar, and I love to use the dark brown because it just gives you a little bit more of a caramel look to the toast. And that was sugar and flour. So I'm just going to mix that together with a fork. And now I'm going to flip over this toast. Gets a little messy, but that's okay. And my granddaughters would absolutely love to be in the kitchen with me right now doing this. These are the kinds of things, these are the things that memories are created out of. All right, so I'm going to move my other bread over. And now everything is going to go back to a sheet pan. So like I said, there's a little bit of process involved in this, but the end result makes it all worth it. So just stack these on just a sheet pan, covered with a little bit of parchment paper. And now I'll go ahead and put just a little bit more of my custard in the bottom of the pan and get the rest of that bread soaking. because we're going to stack it up in the pan. So now I'm going to take these dry ingredients and I'm just going to sprinkle this bread, really load it up. And this is what really gives that flavor, and this is going to kind of caramelize when it bakes. Oh my gosh, it is so good. Not to mention what your house smells like. And for me, with my Sub-Zero M-Series oven, this can be started on low when I go to church, and it's ready when I get back. Okay, let's flip these over. I can transfer them over here, and then we can start doing the stacking. All right, so we're almost there. And like I said, you can do this the night before. All right, so now I'm going to start stacking. So what you want to do, I've got 5 pieces, and all of this, believe it or not, is going to go in this pan. It's just going to look great. And then the last thing that goes on top, we sprinkle pecans. You know, am I killing you right now? And then how about some maple syrup right over the top? All righty. So I'll keep working on this. In Vera's Corner today, we're going to go over how to keep those winter house plants from going like this until spring. And then how about cheddar cheese and chive biscuits to make this brunch complete. So let me keep working, and I'll come back in just a few minutes and we'll get to do a little bit more. I love having houseplants in my home, but you know, when it comes to winter, it's hard to keep them alive. So here are a few tips for how to make sure your plants make it through the winter months. Maximizing hours of light is critical when keeping plants healthy in the winter. Move plants closer to windows if possible. Even better is moving plants to a southern or western facing window, because these will provide the longest hours of sunlight when the days get shorter. Wash dust off of plants so leaves can make maximum use of available light. But be sure not to overwater. Many plants go dormant in the winter and hate wet soil. Let soil dry out completely before watering. Pick up the pot. If it feels light, you're safe to water. Once watered, do not let pots sit in water that is drained from the pot. Otherwise, your plant could get root rot, which is essentially a death sentence. Stop fertilizing in the winter. This can throw off the plant's natural rhythms, so hold off until spring. Finally, keep plants away from direct heat sources or cold drafts. Follow these rules and your plant should live to see another spring. Okay, we're getting ready to get a little messy with some biscuit bacon, but you know what? Your winter houseplants are going to love you and thank you this spring when they made it through the cold winter because you knew how to take care of them. So I hope you enjoyed that and will take advantage of some of those tips. All right, so these are our cheddar cheese and chive biscuits. Just absolutely melt in your mouth, not to mention the fact that they've got onions and cheddar cheese in them. They're perfect as a savory, but you can put fig preserves in the middle of them. You could just do all kinds of things. And today we're going to make them a petite size, which is like a 2-bite. That's perfect if you need an appetizer as well. So we're going to start with white lily flour. It just really makes a nice fluffy biscuit. I've already got that measured in the pan. And then the next ingredient is lard. And the key here is that you want to go ahead and cube it, and then it's got to be stone cold. So this actually just came out of my Sub-Zero drawer freezer, and it really is important because what you're looking for here is the moisture and the steam that's going to come out of that, which incorporates that nice fluffiness to these biscuits. So now I'm just going to use my pastry cutter, and honestly, if I wasn't on TV right now, I'd probably be doing this with my fingers. But either one, you can use a fork, but you're not trying to get it completely incorporated. You just want to just get it spread out. Even if there's a few big chunks of lard, that's just perfect. So that's actually just about what you're looking for right there. Get it all off that pastry cutter because you need every little bit of that. And then my cookie sheet over here is a half pan that I recommend in my cookbook for almost everything we do. All the bars, it's perfect for this recipe. It's just a great thing to have. All right, so my next ingredients are my freshly grated cheddar cheese. And again, there's nothing like freshly grated because it doesn't have any of that stuff on the outside that keeps it from going bad quickly. And now my chives, and I love to use the end pieces too, all the way down to get that good and green. So now I've got my buttermilk. So what I've got here is probably more than I need, but all you want to do here is incorporate all of the ingredients. You don't want to overmix this dough. So I'm going to start with a fork. And I'm just trying to get it so it'll all kind of come together. And your key here is if it's really humid outside, you probably don't need as much buttermilk. If it's a really dry day, you'll probably use all of it. And I'm probably getting ready to use most all of it here. It is a beautiful day today, which I'm thankful for. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit more buttermilk. And then you don't even use a rolling pin for this. This is going to come together right here on this cutting board. So if you have never made biscuits, this recipe is great for a beginner. And you could start with just the plain biscuit recipe, but I, again, highly recommend this one. All right, so everything's almost together. Now I'm getting ready to get my hands in it, like it or not. All right, so we're just trying to get this where I can incorporate it together and get it on the pan. All right, so let me take a little bit of flour, get my pan ready. This is where you're not going to use a rolling pin. You're just going to knead it for just a couple of minutes and flatten it out into about a 1/2 inch thickness. And then your cookie cutter, you want to go straight down and come straight up without twisting, because you want them to rise, and part of that twisting would keep the fluffiness that you've worked so hard to get in place. The other key is that you want these to be touching each other because they need each other to rise. They're friends. So that's how all of that's going to come together. So a very light and fluffy dough. And these are going to bake, believe it or not, at 500 degrees. So don't think that that's a misprint. All right, so I'm going to keep working on this. And when we come back, I've got the most beautiful presentation with a story behind it, so you don't want to miss it. Come back with me for the final presentation. Okay, I promised you some great breakfast brunch recipes today, and I think that's what you got. And not only that, you found out that it's easy to do. You can do it ahead and be ready on Sunday morning or Saturday morning when you've got friends and family coming over for everybody's favorite brunch menu. And you know, for us, we had so many people say, how do you put together great menus, that we decided to make that part of our cookbook. So in the back of the book, these recipes are actually part of the Sunday brunch menu that's in the book, and several others like cocktail parties or Southern supper. So if you're looking for a way to just quickly come up with the menu, I hope you'll refer to that. We put the page that the recipe's on and everything. So let's quickly walk back through what we did today. We started with the tomato pie. It's a wonderful dish that you can make all year. It's actually great with a steak. But if you have any left over, our perfect way to reheat this is by the slice, one slice in the microwave. And for us, we use our Sub-Zero Wolf and Cove under the counter microwave that has a heat sensor that makes it fabulous. All right, so then we moved into our baked French toast, and the best part of that to me is actually putting more maple syrup on it after it comes out of the oven. But our favorite photograph session in the cookbook was when we did this with Peter Frank Edwards, and you saw the inside of the oven. It was great. Then finally, our cheddar cheese and chive biscuits. They just baked up beautifully. And remember I said if that lard was nice, just look how fluffy and wonderful these biscuits turned out. So we've got some great recipes, we've got some easy things that you can do, and you know, we displayed it beautifully on my grandmother's china, so even if it's casual, pull that china and silver out and use it. Teach those grandchildren some good manners while you're at it. So as I always say on the Very Vera Show, no matter what you do it in good taste. I hope you'll come back next week because we're going to be making a stuffed crown roast and a Yule log. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you then.